So this is why we have an alumni panel. This is your peers, and the theme is really what a difference a year or a few years makes on the journey. So maybe if we could start with Jane, like you were sitting literally here a year ago, and how are things different? And how are you, probably the biggest thing is how are you thinking things are different? What do you see, what do you see different? And if you both can go through that. And I really would like this to be your interview of them, you know, engage with them to the best of your ability, because the more that you can ask them questions, the more meaningful it is. Okay, great. Jane?
Okay, cool. For me, I would definitely say the main thing that's different after going through the course were two things. So one, just confidence in general, because I'm generally someone who's a lot more shy and introverted, I would say. So just being able to build the skills and confidence to be able to stand up and speak and pitch your idea that you have worked really hard on and really believe in, and just being able to communicate that well to people. Because this whole program was a lot about learning how to communicate to others, and similar to what Ness was saying, actually, just being able to talk to others and make an impact through your words. And another thing was just being able to think that you can make your ideas a reality. Just because, again, I was someone who didn't really think about entrepreneurship at all. Business is just not my thing in terms of education-wise and such. And so I just naturally thought, oh, well, you know, having a business and running your own business is a nice lofty idea, but it's not like you could actually do it. Or at least felt something that I thought that I could do. But then going through the program, it's just something that really helps you build your skills in that sense, and also shows you that it is something that you can do, like no matter what you're studying or how well you think you are at certain things. Everyone can run a business as long as you have the idea, right? So this program really helped me with both of those things, and I think those are the two main things that changed for me.
And now you're looking at your rising senior and the finishing junior. How are you looking at your career arc differently, or more deeply?
Yeah, so I guess the main difference with that is that because I'm an education major, so naturally I was just thinking, oh, I'll just go into teaching. I still do want to pursue teaching, and I still think that's something I want to do. However, being a part of the social entrepreneurship program helped me kind of think about how I approach the future a little bit differently in terms of, it just gave me more options, right? Because I do have things that I'm interested in, and I have a venture that I'm interested in, which we'll talk about later. And it kind of showed me that, oh, it is a possibility as well. Or maybe I can, honestly, I'm thinking for myself that in the future I'll probably do teaching and work on my business on the side as well. Potentially during summers and stuff too, is when I can focus more on it. And that just kind of changed what I thought was going to happen, where it's like, oh, I'll just do teaching and that'll be it. Maybe I'll have some little part-time job or something at some points if I need more money. But
Cool, thank you, Jane. Sarah, maybe context setting, where you were a few years ago here?
Sure. So 2016 was when I went through this program, and it was actually a month long, not a week. And I did that right after I graduated. I believe we were the first Wheaton program.
Yeah.
So it was a new idea, and I first started with it because my senior thesis was about what to wear in what situation. And my teacher was like, why don't you enter a competition? And I did, got second place, and I ended up in this program. There are a lot of changes. I came back last year as well, so it's even different from last year. And a lot of the changes come from what you say. So if you feel like something could be improved, if you'd like to learn more about something, please say something. Makes the whole program better. And it really helps your teachers to better understand you and how to help you better. I think for me, a lot of things have changed, not just about the program. The community is the same. You can always come back. There's always someone willing to answer you. Mike and I have calls occasionally to check up on where I am and how he can help me and when I can come talk to you all again. I am now 26, and I graduated from Wheaton in 2016. A lot of things have happened. I've had many different jobs. I have pivoted on my idea, and I'm in the middle of another pivot. So it will constantly be changing for you as an entrepreneur, and being able to have this background setting, although it will change as well, the community will be the same.
Thank you, Sarah. Brandon?
Yeah, so for me, truly the boot camp was life-changing. So one of Professor Kazan's favorite quotes of mine is, if you were to tell me freshman year that I would be in front of a classroom talking about entrepreneurship, I would have thought you were crazy. Because I was a computer science major, super quiet, scared to be in front of groups. But from this program, the confidence that I gained was huge. I'm so happy that Ness is here because her video lecture is what we had last boot camp. We had a video lecture with her where she talked about public speaking, and that was one of the most beneficial things I've ever done in my entire life. So actually have her here is big. But it's really just changed my career path. I always knew I wanted to make an impact on the world. So the way I wanted to do that was through assistive technologies. I volunteered with children with autism, and I saw them using iPads to communicate, and I thought that was incredible, and I want to be a part of that. But the tech industry and programming in general, even though I'm a computer science major, isn't something that I'm really big on. I didn't love programming, and I didn't really want to go into a big tech job. So with my idea, which I'll pitch later, is a vibrating fire alarm for deaf people. So if I can take that and make it a reality and improve the quality of lives for others, that's huge. So just my career outlook, working with GSEN in the future, I'm hoping to continue working with them, to continue to have more students kind of find that passion I found and have more students creating impact.
Cool. Questions? Wait. If you all knew that I was going to give $1 out for every hand that was raised, could you have come up with one question? Seriously. Seriously. Okay. So, what's the lesson?
I haven't even asked the question.
You know that you first of all, you took a step. Okay. This is a moment of commitment, right? There's how many brains here, right? Like how many people are really switched on? Ferg gave himself permission to raise his hand.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
And the lesson for the moment, you got to be in it to win it. I was like trying to give some of you like cute clues to like raise your hand. You're like totally clueless. Right? So, be in it to win it. I have more single dollar bills right here. Seriously, just for this reason. And don't be upset, but I want you to think about this moment as to why you weren't curious and confident enough to engage. Because each of you have your motors running, okay? So,
All right, cool. So like, tell me the thought process of like how you got to fire alarms and like deaf people.
Yeah, so it started when I took a American Sign Language course at Bristol Community College. I did a transfer credit and took 2 semesters of ASL. And then basically we had a course here at Wheaton that was taught by Professor Mark LeBlanc, where we had to come up with a mock startup and a business idea. So my group started with a Google Home app to help patients with Alzheimer's, and then decided that the Google API and working with that was just not going to be easy for what we were trying to do. So we pivoted and thought of what other smart device could we make. Why don't we make our own smart device rather than relying on another one? And my group read a story, which again, you'll see the statistics up in my pitch, but where there was a Russian boarding school fire that killed, I believe it was 27 children. And that got us thinking about why weren't there safety measures and why weren't the fire alarms good enough to save lives, basically. Did some research. It came down to the fact that the fire alarms they're using was just like similar to the flashing alarms like you see probably in this room, like the flashing lights. But I talked to my ASL professor who's deaf and has a deaf family, and I asked him, what are you using in your house, and like, do you feel safe with it? And he said the exact thing, he's using a flashing fire alarm, and when he's asleep, especially in the winter under covers, he may not see the light. So he wanted he loved the idea of having an increased measure of security. So that's where our idea came from, was to have a device that's actually listening all the time, similar to Google Home, and can detect fire alarms.
This is your alumni, your panel. Question, Chloe.
I'm also an elementary education major, so I'm just curious, like, if you're using education in your venture, or like just a brief description of what your venture
And
is.
when this panel is when we have our quick Q&A, which will be done in about 4 or 5 minutes, everyone's going to show their pitch. Okay, so you get a chance for that. Okay?
Yeah, so I'll go over my idea more in depth than during the pitch. But first of all, I'm really excited. But so I definitely did tie in education because that's something that I'm really passionate about. And specifically in education, I'm really passionate about low-income education, just because there's a lot of low-income students that just don't get the resources that they need, and that's why, like, statistically, a lot of times low-income students just don't do as well on tests and such or in school, and it's only because of resources or things that they have access to, right? And so I wanted to help that in some way, and I had to pivot my idea quite a few times, because at first I wanted to do some sort of direct help. So at first I was thinking of an after-school program that would provide like lessons and resources and such, but that just didn't seem feasible, at least for right now. Maybe I could grow into something like that in the future. So as of right now, after talking with some of the people from the last boot camp, I combined, I guess, 2 things that I'm really passionate about, which is education and then also food. And so I'm making these, they're called EduCups. So there's these little healthier, like, vegan ice cream alternatives that are in single serving cups. And half the proceeds go to 2 different fundraising sources that I've found. One called Blue Engine and one called Bright Prospects, which are 2 organizations that just help low-income students, one through the teachers, which is Blue Engine, and one through actually helping provide resources and mentors to students, which is Bright Prospects. So.
Anybody else? General question? Yes. MJ.
How do you guys deal with the unknowns of starting a business? Like, how, if there were any things that, like, if you don't have a prototype or you just have like this idea, like, how do you address that and grapple with that?
I would just say use your resources. Just like you're asking a question right now, you're open to an answer. And you have so many people in this room that have that experience and have gone through that. And like, I personally, my idea that I first came up with, I ended up working for a startup that did the exact same thing and realized that my business plan did not work and had to redo the whole thing. But I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been open to it, or if I hadn't been searching for, oh, this is a similarity in my business. How are they dealing with it? Well, it's not working out. Is there another way to do it? You know, as an entrepreneur, you need to be open to that, and you need to be willing to take what's going to come to you, because sometimes it's not a positive thing. But I mean, the overall of being able to deal with these complications and learning how to apply that later on in life is an amazing skill that you really only get from an entrepreneurial mindset. Does that help?
So I had a question about kind of like, what would you like pinpoint for each of you as like a very successful moment? And by that I don't mean like necessarily like your first like sale, but like a moment that like stands out in your mind as like it could be like a failure, where you learn something, or a failure where you learn something. But yeah, what is like a successful moment in your eyes with your businesses?
Yeah, actually I can think of something, because it also relates to the last question that was just asked as well. For me, it would definitely be when I first, well, okay, actually going back to the question before, because this relates, I would also say for you, MJ, just to like dive into whatever idea you're thinking of, even if you don't think it's quite possible, because that's what I did with my first idea. And although that didn't work out and I had to pivot from it, which is what I think was really helpful for me in terms of like a learning experience. And I think it was like one of the biggest successes for me was just being able to delve deep into my original idea and just try it out and then realize, oh wait, now like going through this whole process, now I see all these like little pieces that I couldn't see before when I was making this idea and starting up this business plan. And that really helped me, really helped me develop my second business plan further. And so I really think that it was just coming to that realization of like, oh, now that I've tried this out, I see it doesn't work, but I can keep on going and working with this. That was definitely one of my biggest successes out there.
Yeah, I'll also go back to the previous question too and say that it ties together with your character, and dealing with uncertainty is something that you have to remember why you're doing it. So going through this boot camp, my whole why was I want to make an impact. So it all led up to the pitch, where I was working with my partner at the and we rehearsed it over and over again for hours and hours until we felt we were comfortable to come up in front of a group and speak. Because like I said, I was not comfortable public speaking. But going towards uncertainty and wondering how am I going to do in front of this group? Am I going to panic? Am I going to miss my line? Am I going to miss my cue? But then getting through that pitch successfully at the end was such a relief and one of the proudest moments of my life. So I'd say that's probably the peak so far of my business. And then following through with that and going to New York, it's all just kind of built from that moment.
So I have a question about how do you balance between being a student and running your own business, because we're all in college and spending a ton of time just with our academics, but then now you're adding in your own business idea that other people will probably spend 100% of their time like thinking about, but we have to be students. How do you keep that like balanced?
Maybe a hack. What's a one life hack
Yeah.
for balancing the pace? Right?
Yeah.
I personally did not start my idea during college,
Right.
but I did play sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can put those together.
Mm-hmm.
You're spending a lot of time, you have practice for 3 hours every day. Think of it that way, you know, you're scheduling yourself to, there are plenty of student athletes that are able to do it. And it's really just scheduling. It's, you know, I'm going to put in this amount of time right now. I'm going to work on this subject. If, you know, I'm kind of having issues with it and it's not clicking for me, move on to something else. And I think you can really apply that to your idea as well. And sports also has passion in it. You're not playing sports in college if you are not passionate about it. So your idea, you'll make it work. It's like, I had a planner, and I put in that planner, this is when I'm at practice, this is when I'm working on math, this is when I'm working on this, and then actually making yourself stick to that is the hardest thing. But if you can make yourself stick to your plan, it's really possible.
Jason, do you have a life hack on juggling everything?
Yes, I do. It's called 404, feet on the floor. So strategy to get stuff done. You have an extra 2 hours in the morning. Nobody can bother you. Sometimes I'll call Professor Caslin in the morning. For almost 3 months, I practiced the 404 feet on the floor. Because I was an excuse. Yeah, an excuse 1 year prior, I signed up for DSEN. I was doing it remotely from Los Angeles as an adult learner. And I was like, Professor Kaz, I'm running my business. How can I turn it into a social for-profit? I don't have time. I never have time. He's like, yeah, you have time. You have to wake up in the morning. So growth hack, extra 2 hours a day. Over the course of a week, you got an extra almost 14 hours of work that you could do. Times that by 4. You know, now you're looking into some actual time. Right? And that makes a difference. Times that by 12. There you go. You're making some impact on your business.
And it's important to like have balance. So you shouldn't stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning on blue screen, and then try and get up to 4. Like that's gonna like fry your CPU is gonna fry you. But that means you gotta have a better balance between what you're doing, who's using your time from dinner till midnight, or 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning, and who are you letting manage your time, and who are you letting spend your time? That's the biggest thing in growing as a manager and an executive, is you have to be more alert on how people spend your time. And you have to make growingly disciplined choices. So, you know, we actually almost had a slam type of text where we'd text each other as to who is first 404 on the floor. 404 feet on the floor means you do have 2 extra hours to get something done. It's not easy, but you can shift your sleep pattern, you can shift your activity patterns around.
And Kaz may beat me up on this, but know thyself,
Yeah.
I'm a night owl.
Yeah.
My extra 6 hours a day were from 9 to 2. When I worked at AOL and I was doing my business, after my family went to bed at 9, that's when I turned it on, and I worked until 2. And I had folks in India that were writing code for me, so that worked out really well. I had other people that were moonlighting for me, so that worked well. So whatever works for you.
Whatever works for you. Yeah.
But you can't do both. Don't burn the candle at both ends, that doesn't work.
Yeah, and I'd say the biggest thing is, we did some summer programs with gifted prep school students from Europe, and the #1 issue was stress and fatigue. And I was like, well, what time is everybody going to bed? And like everybody was averaging between 2 and 3 a.m. This is like 15-year-olds. Like, and then what are you doing? You know, and what happens is when you're late into your computer and your digital social media, your brain still works for another 2 to 3 hours. You can't shut off as soon as your computer shuts off. So you have to start to manage that. And if you're a night person versus a day person versus a biorhythm person, and you have certain days of the month and weeks of the month where you're more productive, all those, just make it work for you. But people will spend your time, and that's probably the most important thing to be aware of.
All right, question. So, like, can you guys tell me or like elaborate on how much time that you guys dedicated into your businesses, and like, was there ever like a deadline? Cause like for me, like sometimes I wake up with an idea that I can add to the business, and I don't feel like there should be a deadline because there's always room for improvement. And so I just wanted to know if you guys had a deadline at the time that you guys had the idea and have been creating the business.
My best advice for having ideas 24/7, always have ideas. I have a place in my phone that I put them, but always have a sheet of paper or a pad next to your bed, because it keeps me up at night. If I think of an idea and I'm like, I need to write that down. No, I need to sleep. No, I need to write that down. Just write it down immediately, and in the morning you can process it. It'll help you sleep better. And I never had any deadlines for myself. What I have is, today, do you feel like sourcing clothing? Do you feel like going to a thrift shop and finding vintage things? Yes, I always feel like that. Do you have time for it? So it's more about, what can I do each day, little things. Like for you, you could, after lunch, answer inbound requests about creating a photo of someone's dog. And you could be like, every day after lunch I'm going to check. That's it. Small little thing that you're able to do just to kind of bring it back down, because I know we're talking about, you're waking up at 4 in the morning, you're staying up until 2, and it might be kind of hard just as a student to imagine yourself doing that. You get there, but you have to start somewhere. So small little pieces. I think deadlines are a good thing if that's what you need. I'm not really a deadline person. Just do what you can. If it's your passion, you'll go as far as you need to, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the concept of small wins. What can give you a small win that builds momentum for the day, for the week? Maybe it's something just getting going. Sometimes I have like 12 things that I want to try and achieve before the day starts, and maybe just feeding our family cat gets me going, because her name is Kitty Katerina. And at 4 o'clock, between 4 and 5, she just starts talking. She comes up and starts talking, and until I feed her, she's not going to stop. So I have to feed her, and if I'm up and then I'm going taking care of her, then all of a sudden these other things you can get done. You start to build small wins. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is pivot. We're gonna go into 5-minute reviews of your pitch decks. And then we'll have a chance for you to have